Consistency for me is really, it's all about fairness and sameness. It really helps me as an executive coach and a team developer because I look at everybody at face value. And to me, everyone is the same. I'm intolerant of unfair advantages. Along with my background in some business ethics, I'm able to easily and quickly guide others to make decisions that are fair to everyone involved. People will have confidence and see me as trustworthy simply because of some of the dynamics. Consistency for me means I bring practicality, predictability, and especially efficiency.
Hello, and welcome back to Coach. Today, we are talking about the strength of consistency. I have with me Kevin and Alisa, and they are our two experts coming to us to tell us all about this amazing strength. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Could you give me your top 5, please, where you're calling from, and then your take on this strength consistency?
Yeah, great. Well, Brandon, thanks you for having me in this opportunity. It's great to be here alongside Alisa. My top 5 are harmony, followed by maximizer, and then discipline, responsibility, and consistency. And I am calling in today from Mount Vernon, Washington, United States of America, just about an hour north of Seattle.
Cool. Thank you, Kevin. Harmony, maximize your discipline, responsibility, and consistency. We get that right?
That's right, yeah.
All right. So much to unpack there. Thank you. Alisa.
Yes. Hello, Brandon.
Top 5, where you're calling in from today, and just in case 34 has you somewhere out there.
Exactly.
We'll tell the listeners up front. Alisa and I work together at 34 Strong, and she's been kind enough to jump in here and talk about consistency today. And so, where you're calling in from, top 5, and your take on consistency here.
Great. Yes, my top 5. Number 1, achiever. Number 2, relator. Number 3, disciplined, like my friend Kevin. And number 4 is focus. And number 5 is learner. And I am calling in from the East Coast, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a little town called Concord.
Concord, North Carolina. And what number is consistency for you?
It is my number 7, Brandon.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So, Kevin, can you give us your take on consistency?
As you can see by my top 5, I lead with executing strengths, right? So I have a relationship building and an influencing strength up the top, and then 3 executing strengths. And consistency for me is really, it's all about fairness and sameness. It really helps me as an executive coach and a team developer because I look at everybody at face value. And to me, everyone is the same. I'm intolerant of unfair advantages. Along with my background in some business ethics, I'm able to easily and quickly guide others to make decisions that are fair to everyone involved. People will have confidence and see me as trustworthy simply because of some of the dynamics, the theme dynamics, which we'll talk a little bit about. Consistency for me means, I bring practicality, predictability, and especially efficiency.
I like that. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, Alisa, tell us about your consistency.
Yeah, consistency is one of the strengths that really defines how I lead and coach. And so in a previous stage of my career as an executive, it was really a strength that drove me in terms of helping me to create clarity during complex times, during chaos, being able to build equitable practices and systems that could scale. And not only that, being able to empower people to lead with confidence and purpose and trust. So I operationalized it during my days as a executive in the private sector at IBM Global Services and also Duke Energy. And even now, as I'm coaching hundreds of leaders across the government and healthcare, education, energy sectors, I find that really enables me to create that structure and reliability that builds trust and also drives performance. So it's not about rigid sameness, the same as what Kevin said. It's about fairness. And then that means to me ensuring that every individual has a clear path in order for them to succeed. And especially in environments that are very, changing and complex like we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. I want to start doing some of the dynamic conversation. Gallup coined that term theme dynamics to describe the interplay of one strength with another, and then you can go to three of them together, kind of create your own unique blend recipes of each one. But a common pairing is discipline with consistency. And given that you both share discipline at number 3 with your consistency, I'm wanting to hear you both riff a little bit on just how that particular combo shows up, because discipline's a rare strength. That's one of the 5 rarest, and consistency is also not a really common one. More common than discipline, but not really common. So together, that's a unique combination. As we go through the episode, I'm going to throw out questions like this. Whoever wants to jump in first, go for it. And as we said pre-show, if you guys have questions for each other, you just take that away. So whoever wants to go first, discipline and consistency, describe those two in particular, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Great question, Brandon. If I may, I'd like to add a twist to that and add in my achiever, because it plays along pretty strongly with my consistency and discipline. So what it looks like for me is that I don't just set up fair processes or ways to get things done. I drive forward, and that's my achiever, with energy that is relentless, quite honestly, and order. So the discipline comes into play with the order. And so my desire is usually to have consistent outcomes that are backed by that drive to get things done efficiently and correctly. I heard Kevin, and it resonated with me when he said efficiency and practicality. And those are 2 things that are values and tenets of mine that I usually work towards. I thrive on clear routines. And I really, really get excited about deliverables, because that allows others to operate in a way that they get things done and they can do it with confidence. So to me, fairness is about follow through, right? And creating those routines that make certain that, for the most part, surprises are minimized and everybody knows how they can contribute to success.
Thank you.
Alisa, I love that description, and I really appreciate how you brought in that third. You looked at consistency, discipline, and that achiever, and how that mixes in there. And I'm going to do the same, because in my top 5, I lead by executing themes, right? I have 3 of them there. And there's this really interesting dynamic that occurs. To me, consistency is all about organizational efficiency. It's the group or the team, okay? And that's what I'm really keyed in on. Number 3, discipline for me, is all about routine and structure and order. And for me, that shows up as personal efficiency. So it's the team efficiency, group efficiency, alongside this discipline, which is personal efficiency. I'll say bring in my number 1, harmony now, which is all about consensus. That brings emotional efficiency to that group or team. A few years ago, you might remember Kurt Liesfeld, when he talked about efficiency and these different strengths and how they play together. He called this the efficiency package, right? So the emotional efficiency, the personal efficiency, the team efficiency. So that's kind of how those work together for me. It's a personal thing and a team and a group.
Very nice, Kevin. Yeah, and I noticed that we have responsibility. You have it in your top 5. I have it in my top 10. It's actually my number 6, so pretty close there. I'm curious as to how that shows up for you with consistency.
Yeah, great question. Responsibility is, I call it a little bit of an external strength. An achiever is oftentimes we compare those two. An achiever seems to be, and I'd love for your take on this. Achiever seems to be about that, internal. I want to get things done by the end of the day. It's that checklist. Responsibility is a little bit more about ownership of and responsibility and accountability to others. A little bit more external is kind of the way I look at it. But that responsibility number 4 for me drives me to do things right and do the right things. Integrity, right? That shows up in my top 3 values. And I'm more likely to do that when I have clear guidelines to follow. And that's where that consistency and discipline kind of groups together with that responsibility it's how I show up.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I definitely resonate with the accountability piece, as it is attached very strongly to my consistency in conjunction with that. I tend to think that I bring a real powerful sense of accountability to fairness. Okay, so it's not just about treating people fairly, it's about following through with integrity. And I hold myself to high standards. Sometimes I'm really hard on myself. I have to manage that throughout my life. I've been really hard on myself, but I also try to not hit my blind spot of being too hard on others and expecting too much of others. So that's that responsibility blind spot that comes to play. But yeah, I think that with consistency and responsibility, it really does ensure fairness is not just performative, it's deeply embedded in the way that, I operate, the way that I lead and I do things. It's one of those that I make certain that, as you said, the expectations are clear on the team and equitable. And I own the delivery. So that's the accountability piece that's pretty strong. And if we commit to a standard, I want to see it through in the sense that we meet it together.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. That's really interesting.
How do you both, when you encounter the inevitable unpredictability, when plans don't go the way we ultimately want, because having worked with Alisa, we both know well that things don't almost ever go exactly according to plan, whether that's the training you showed up to deliver, coaching session, schedules moving around, things that you thought you had budget for that change. I mean, unpredictability with people is implied. It's guaranteed. And so I'm curious, because you both demonstrate such an ardent commitment to practicality, efficiency, and then, life's going to be messy. It's going to come and muss it up. And so I'm curious, as you both represent a very distinguished, mature version of these strengths, how do you handle, and maybe you even comment on that learning curve, how you had to come up with that? Because I imagine at times along the way in your career, there were feelings about things not going according to plan, things not being practical or predictable, and how you've had to learn to measure and gauge those responses.
Absolutely. Boy, you hit it really hard there. The nail on the head, I'll say. So for me, my arranger is number 9, and I have to lean into arranger whenever there are times that I need to. And what I will say is that I really value structure. I've been told I'm a very structured person. I spent 30 years, probably telling my age here, in corporate America, and people used to tell me I was the perfect corporate, profile, right? And it's because I value structure. However, I did have to learn how to demonstrate flexibility in managing complexity. And that was so necessary to not become too rigid and not to have the expectation that things had to be cookie cutter or a set way. And my arranger helped me with that. So I actually enjoy kind of the moving parts, and still, as I go through with the moving parts, my consistency comes into play in maintaining that fairness and adapting without compromising the equity around it. So I adjust to the pieces. Here's what I would say. I adjust to the pieces without breaking the pattern. I have a pattern and a framework that serves me well, that usually is established. And as I was managing teams, of course, it wasn't just me. It was my team and their cadence and, what really worked for them as well individually to make certain everyone gets what they need, but we need to deliver excellence together. And the way we would do that is adjust. And I needed to lean more and have had to learn how to lean more into my Ranger at times.
You know how we start our coaching business on a high, only to get absolutely overwhelmed by the business side of things? We're suddenly supposed to be a full-time salesperson, marketing funnel maker, email marketing expert, social media manager, customer service rep, and tech expert all in one. Yeah, overwhelmed. Well, Lisa Cummings, our strengths coach friend, created a membership that gives you an insane member vault that will blow your mind. All the tools, systems, and templates to save you time and money. It's the actual assets Lisa used at Lead Through Strengths to build a successful strengths coaching business. All the assets are yours to customize and make your very own. She even gives you 2 years worth of emails you can use to serve your customers. So check it out at podcast.34strong.com, Lead Through Strengths. Again, podcast.34strong.com, Lead Through Strengths from Lisa Cummings.
Yeah, thanks, Alisa. It's interesting as Brandon asked that question about, change and being flexible and, working with all kinds of different people. It reminded me a little bit of, I was in the Navy for 26 years, 3 years in the Pentagon, and nothing is ever the same, right? So it's working with that, and working through that. And I think that in many cases, consistency has helped me be very patient with those big, large bureaucratic systems and processes, right? I am blessed that my number 6 is individualization. And so there's a really great balance between, individualization is all about those unique qualities of people. And that's very contrasting to consistency. I get very committed to treating each person the same. And if I did that, I could forget that no two people are alike. Just like there's, only 1 in 34 million that have the same strengths in the same order as any one of us, right? We're all unique. We're all different. We all have different ways of motivating people. Everyone has their own way of thinking and relating to others. And that individualization helps bring it, very close, number 6 to my number 5 consistency. It brings that amazing balance. So I'm very lucky with that. I also, I can bring in the number 2 maximizer, that helps, that people strive for that higher standard of excellence. And that one pairs well with that consistency because it creates and improves these standardized processes or systems. Standard operating procedures is, one thing we might want to call it. So yeah, I have some great pairs. And I will tell you, just like Brandon mentioned at the beginning, consistency, discipline, much lower for him. I reach down and find partners who can provide those different balances and perspectives in those times of change that my consistency might want to be a lot more rigid.
I want to call out your consistency individualization side by side there for a second, because that's a rare combo to see side by side. So I would love to explore that just a little more, because usually you're going to see one on one end and one on the other because of how they approach people. Now, I recognize that consistency has an executing, domain placement, and yet so much of it does revolve people because you're dealing in fairness. They called consistency fairness when it was, originally put out there as a strength, and then later they shifted it to consistency. So the fairness individualization feels a little closer than consistency, and yet in the years of seeing so many reports, I've often seen those juxtaposed in different perspectives there. So for someone who gets to do both sides of that, Kevin, can you go a little deeper on that of just how that dynamic plays?
I think, Brandon, really becomes all about balance when we're looking at those two, because and they side by side, and or even if they were in the top 10 together, I just think there's a great balance there. It's a good reminder for me that although I love to see teams on the same page, kind of that harmony coming in and working in structure and routines and operating systems that make things easy for people, I also have to remember that, they're all unique, and their needs, what they bring to our team, the things they need, are all unique and different together. So I just spend a lot of time thinking about, what's the big picture, what's best for the team, and how can those different individuals be part of that to bring out the best in the team.
Do they ever pull on each other, though? Does the interest to individualize and customize versus the consistency has such a gift at creating, a fair space, parity and equality, and they can feel at times like there's tension there. Do you ever internalize some of that?
Yeah, great point. Yes, there is a tension. And sometimes maybe that just goes back to taking that deep breath, maybe leaning into the harmony a little bit more, looking at those other strengths to go, all right, where is the balance? And I think oftentimes that simply self-awareness to know that, boy, it sure feels good when I am in that routine, or this team is in routine, and those kind of then just structure and they're following processes. And, how are each of them feeling and doing and being in their individual strengths as they show up as to be part of that team. One of the things I remember in the back of my head too is that, consistency wants to follow the letter of the law. And I have to remember, sometimes it's about the spirit of the law.
I'm all about the spirit of the law, Kevin. I can relate on that. If I could bend it, flex it, adjust it, I'm doing it. Okay, so you both are high responsibility with consistency and the ownership component, because responsibility takes ownership for anything that it assigns itself to. And sometimes because you mentioned bureaucratic systems, Kevin, in the government space, and Alisa coming from corporate, also bureaucratic. Sometimes there's so many things beyond you. You can't own what you can't own, and yet you feel it, right? You feel that sense of ownership, and somehow, some way, you have to adjust what. And Alisa, you gave me the in there when you said I can be hard on myself. I have found with responsibility and that consistency that there can be just a need to lighten up on self, like take time to reflect and, okay, I can own what I can own, and I can't go beyond here. And I imagine, I'm curious, in your careers, you both have very well established careers, very high level. You named IBM and the Pentagon here today, so we're pretty high echelon here of leadership and roles that you've both occupied. So how does one take that home, right? How do you have such ownership, such awareness of practical processes, procedures? You know what's going to work. And if people would just listen to you, it would work. But not always do you get to be listened to, right? Sometimes you get overruled, and now you got to put something in place that's not going to work, and yet you feel ownership for it. And I imagine this may have happened a time or two in a career as sustained and as successful as you both have had.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the way you phrased that. And Kevin, thank you for your summary around individualization. That sparked a thought for me in my one relationship building strength in my top 10, which is relator. I used to be really concerned about the fact that I had only one, and I feel like I am a people person, definitely was a people leader, and enjoy people. But relator brings heart to my structure. That's what I would say. So I lead with connection. And so making certain that whether it was teams, I was building processes, we were developing together, or systems even across the enterprise that were being deployed, I built them with heart and with buy-in and grounded in the respect and the knowledge of the team and the experts in order for it to be operationally excellent. And so that to me is about fairness, in terms of treating everyone in a way that utilizes their individual strengths, and your individualization, sparked me to think about that. It really does mean treating people with equal dignity and care. So that's the first part. The second part I'll say to Brandon's question is I've had to, over my life, not just my career, lean into my self-assurance. So my self-assurance is number 8. And that is what strengthens my voice. I'm not necessarily a vocal person. I'm very reflective, and I'm very observant and take it in. But when I do come out with my thoughts, they are usually well thought out and intentional. And certainly when it comes to fairness, I can challenge that. I usually don't waver under pressure. Also answering your question there and how I was able to navigate is that, being able to stand firm and speak up and hold the line, because I knew it was along the line of using the power of my consistency to create that, for my team, sometimes psychological safety and trust, and get the results that would be sustainable. So together, those strengths really, really allow me to kind of get with that structure and soul.
Do you ever feel lonely as a coach or solopreneur? What if you had a place where you could surround yourself with like-minded coaches who truly get you, where learning, sharing, and growing together is the norm? Connect, Learn, and Share, started by Charlotte Blair, is a vibrant community of Clifton Strengths coaches from around the world. Hosted on the Circle platform, it's a place where you'll find people, processes, and events to help you grow your business, enhance your coaching and facilitation skills, and thrive in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment. Connect with coaches from diverse backgrounds and experiences. Learn through a calendar of recorded events across time zones, and share your knowledge in a community built on an abundance mindset rooted in strengths. Visit podcast.34strong.com to learn more. Again, podcast.34strong.com to learn more about the Connect, Learn, and Share community.
Alisa, I love hearing that balance. And as I listened there, what I really heard is that consistency come out. But you talked about you don't bend under pressure, and that what I heard there was focus, right? Just keeping that eye on the prize coming out. I loved hearing that. Brandon's question made me think a little bit about the 5 truths of a team, right? And truth number 2 is strong teams prioritize what's best for the organization, move forward. And I was starting to, how do I connect that to consistency? And I think people with consistency thrive when they understand how different parts of the organization contribute, while sticking to those same rules and kind of standards. People on a team like that, they value knowing that everybody has an equal chance to succeed, right? There's that equalness there. And I think people with consistency often prefer, those regular updates and comparisons to track progress against some kind of standards across the organization. So that consistency kind of made me think about that when it comes to that. How do you deal with the change? Well, the team, especially in a consistent environment, they prioritize what's best for the organization. It doesn't become a personal thing.
So thank you for calling out my focus. That's my number 4. So as you could imagine, it has been a journey for me to utilize my strengths in the right way, manage them in the way that gets the results for myself, my team, my family, my community. I mean, it really has been. With my focus, I can easily filter out distractions. I stay aligned with what truly matters. And so, even as a child, quite honestly, when I think about it, I didn't get caught up in trends or favoritism or anything like that. I remained very anchored in my beliefs and my standards. And so that really helped me to grow, into a leader, and also to keep my teams moving in a unified direction when there was a lot of dynamic, high pressure situations that were going on in the industry, within the company, within the organization. It just was always something. And so being able to really, have that focus to some degree gave a sense of calm presence and helped others to move forward.
My daughter took strengths when she was a teenager, and I was laughing as she went through because I was sitting with her. She was 14, 15 at the time. And every time how it presents two options and you pick, one or away. And I saw her pick away from adaptability every single time, almost like she made a face like, ew, like who wants to go with the flow? And so when her results came back, it was like discipline, consistency, responsibility, really, really strong, regimented child, and had always been. I mean, very orderly, very structured. Punctuality mattered to her so much. Even how she coordinated clothes, everything needed to look in its place at all times. And so over the years, seeing reports, I've often seen that adaptability low, consistency, discipline high. And I'm curious for you two because, the world's filled with those folks. In fact, it's a really common strength. It's a really common strength. I've learned to appreciate them deeply because they do make things lighter. They do lift things, and they have that ability to flex so well. And yet at times they can really, really impact people like my daughter. Like she almost would be like, "Oh, why are you this way?" And funny story, two of her three older siblings were top 5 adaptables. So she always wondered, like, how do you be? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, how do you make plans the day of at the spur of a moment? Like she's got her week laid out. So curious for you two, just hot take on, the adaptable with consistency, discipline relationship. Just lay it out there. Just lay it out there. You're like, first of all, yeah, they're not in my orbit. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, my adaptability is number 33.
I had a feeling. Kevin, you know where yours is?
I'm sure it's down at the bottom there somewhere.
Yeah. He's like, it's so low I don't even remember it. It might be 35 or 36. Yeah. So those people are all around us, right? We're interacting with them. We work with them. We relate to them. They're in our families. How do you two manage that?
Alisa, if you don't mind, I'll jump in
Go
here.
right ahead.
Part of me is I say I rely on them. I love them for that strength that they bring because my flexibility, my adaptability is different. I don't mind being flexible, adaptable, but it's not what I'm going to prefer and it's not what I'm going to be best at. And so when those kind of people show up and they can handle crisis and kind of go with the flow, be more spontaneous, I love that in those people. And so for me, it's kind of taking that deep breath and respecting what they bring.
Absolutely agree. Couldn't agree more. Some of my best friends have very high adaptability. They are, they go with the flow. They're free spirits. I thrive off of being around them and get energy from the way they are, because they will come up with the idea that let's go do this, or an idea around, even work related things where maybe I've thought about a framework or a construct or a system or a program that would be, what I think is, one of the best. They'll add to it and add some free flowing thoughts that will make it that much better. So I really do need that, and I enjoy working with people that have high adaptability, and also in my family, having fun with those who are very high in adaptability and exercise that.
I love the mature response you both gave. Perfect. That's exactly what we'll tell those that have what's wrong with those people? We'll say, listen to these two. They have such a seasoned and mature response. Well done, friends. I want to ask you both now to let our listeners know where they might be able to find you and what you're up to and work that you're doing. This way we can give you some opportunity to have others, discover you. So Alisa, if you want to go first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had the best job in the world. I work for the best company in the world. And I mean that sincerely, or I would not be working. I actually am in my second stage of my career where I retired early from corporate America and started my own business. And then I found 34 Strong. And I'm a very direct person and authentic. And so when I say this, I mean it. It is where I want to be, and it's because we're impacting so many lives, whether it's individuals or teams, organizations. We are doing the work, and we are partnering with those that want to do the work to increase their engagement within the organization. So people come in every day to work, and they want to be there, and they produce great results. So I am thankful that in my lifetime, I've been able to find that place. Not always everyone is able to find that place and work for a living, but I love working. And so I'm at 34 Strong, I guess title. I've had a lot of titles in my career. They mean nothing to me, but I'm thankful I get paid. And I am a senior organizational development consultant. What does that mean? That means that I do a lot of coaching. Executive manager, professional coaching. I am an ICF certified professional coach, which I'm very happy about and proud. Took me a while to keep it and maintain it, and I learned a lot through that process, and I'm able to do that with 34 Strong, along with, of course, being Gallup certified, and the two together make for a very nice combination. So that's pretty much it. Leadership development, coaching, facilitation, program development, all of that. And the biggest thing is people making a difference in their lives.
Awesome. Thank you, Alisa. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. And, it's interesting when Alisa was describing the fact that she worked for the best company, I was like, Alisa works for me?
That's awesome.
Well played. Well played, fellow Maximizer.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, my business is called Wardroom Success Strategies, and it plays off of the wardroom on a U.S. Navy ship where I spent many years of my career, my early career. And at Wardroom Success Strategies, I help leaders, managers, and teams understand themselves and each other so they can live and work better together. I am located in Northwest Washington State. I have clients internationally and all around the country. And you can find me at wardroomsuccessstrategies.com or email at kevin@wardroomsuccess.com or kevinminahan@gmail.com, whatever works for you.
Thank you. To our listeners, take a moment and reflect on your own strengths. This has been a very rich conversation from Alisa and Kevin today on the strength of consistency. I really appreciated the way that they broke the strength down, the way that they brought understanding to it. So if you're listening today and this is a top strength, hopefully you got some really great insights of how to build on this strength, how it connects to others in your top 10. I think Alisa might have brought us through all 10 of hers. That was awesome. You brought us all the way around. That was cool. But if you don't, I assure you, you know people, you work with people who have this strength. It can at times be misunderstood. And so do take some of this learning and share with others. A huge thank you to our sponsors and, of course, to our guests. Both of you, thank you so much. You did a great job. Really appreciate having you today.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Brandon.
As do I, Brandon. Thank you.
And to our guests, we will see you next time on Coach to Coach.
That's a wrap on this episode of Coach to Coach. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're a strengths coach looking to dive deeper, join the Coach Strong community. It's where coaches like you come together to share insights, support one another, and discover partnership opportunities. Be part of the conversations that are elevating our industry. Email community@34strong.com to join today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Coach to Coach. Stay strong.